Offense caused Officer Wilson to stand.
My name is Darren Wilson, and I was the officer involved in the scene.
Explain what was happening during the stand.
Well, I was driving on Canfield Drive and had just handled a call for a sick patient. I've been on the street on a daily basis since I was in my usual patrol area. The street had much more traffic than usual, which was peculiar. I was able to drive up to the front, and I saw Mr. Brown and Mr. Johnson walking in the middle of the street, impeding traffic. I'd asked them a few times to get on the side of the road, but they were not listening.
Did they comply?
No, I had to pull over in order to speak with them.
So what happened next?
I got out of the car and I walked up to them to talk. I was then shoved by Mr. Brown. I immediately returned to my vehicle to call for backup because that was protocol. As I was returning to my vehicle, I was chased by Mr. Brown. I was able to get in, but the window was open, and I was struck multiple times by Mr. Brown's left hand in my face. He then reached for my pistol, and I was unable to reach for my pepper spray or my baton because I was sitting, and they were inaccessible. The pistol was pointed at me multiple times.
So what happened next?
I had retreated back farther into my vehicle, and my shoulder radio flew off. I attempted to fire a shot, but I failed because Brown's hand was jammed in the hammer of the pistol. I attempted another shot, which struck Brown in the hand and shattered my vehicle's glass. I fired another after, but Brown had begun to run.
And anything else happened?
I got out of the car and I raised my gun toward him, telling him to put his hands up. During this time, Mr. Johnson was on the side, but he began to run until I asked him to put his hands up as well.
How many shots were fired?
5, maybe 6 shots.
What were you intending to kill him?
I intended to defend myself. I knew I had already been attacked, and if I did not act, Brown posed a serious threat to my life. He was a large man, and if he had obtained my weapon or attacked me once again with his hands, I feared for my own life.
Was Brown that much of an intimidating person?
He was definitely a large man. He hit me very hard multiple times, and I definitely felt fear when he had attacked me. I had to fire shots in self-defense. I suspected he may have been intoxicated. His speech was slurred, and he was not running in a straight line.
Were you racially profiling because he was African American?
We have 30 seconds left.
No, they had been in the streets, and I had confronted them because they were causing a disturbance. And I only took action when I felt there was danger. No matter what race Mr. Brown was, he posed a threat to my life, and I acted. I was colorblind to the situation. I acted to protect myself and the citizens of Ferguson, as is my duty as an officer.
No further questions.
Your Honor, I would like to object on the basis of vague and ambiguous. I would also like to ask the witness if you said that you were intimidated by Mike Brown. Is that correct? Or we cannot have it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Objection, examined.
Vague,
Can I?
ambiguous, what specifically are
He
you?
was vague about. He said that he was intimidated by Mike Brown, and I wanted to have him elaborate on his experience and his encounter with Mike Brown.
I believe you did. Explain his feelings at
It's not in detail, because I have here a little bit of how he encountered with Mike Brown and exactly what he said.
So, you said you may talk about what
You can't ask what you can do. You can bring notice, an objection to the vague testimony by the person who may not actually do it, but you can't ask them to expand on it.
I can clarify the written testimony.
Written testimony would like that.
Your Honor, I think what my colleague is trying to say is that if Darren Wilson was truly intimidated by Michael Brown, then why would multiple witnesses testify that before the accident, Darren Wilson had said and confirmed to say
he had shown the video before that he had already blocked, he had already intimidated the clerk. It's very evident that he's very aggressive. Can be seen as a very scary man. We like to come next.
I don't, do we have enough time to have another witness?
Yeah.
The defense calls Jordan Allen.
My name is Jordan Allen. I am the medical examiner for St. Louis County who was originally assigned to the case.
I have the results of your autopsy and toxicology examination. And can you please explain the differences?
Sure, Michael Brown was shot 6 times with Darren Wilson's assigned weapon, with all the shots being at close range. I concluded that because gunpowder residue was found on Michael Brown's clothes.
What else does the gunpowder residue tell us?
It supports the fact that Brown is reaching for the gun. If he has gunpowder particulate material in the wound, the autopsy found material consistent with products that are discharged from the barrel of a firearm in a wound on Brown's thumb. These products would only appear on Brown's hand if he had been within a few inches of the gun.
Can you tell us the toxicology results?
In Michael Brown's toxicology results, there was a high level of THC, an ingredient of marijuana. Based on how much was present when the blood and urine samples were taken and the time after they were collected, there may have been enough THC in his system during the incident to cause hallucinations.
Do you know the side effects of THC?
Yes, panic reactions, paranoia, dizziness, difficulty with thinking and problem solving, sensory distortion, increased heartbeat, and anxiety are often side effects we see in users who have THC in their system, especially at a high amount, this high.
Can you tell us more about the gun shot wounds?
The autopsy clearly indicates that Brown was shot in the forehead, twice in the chest, and once in the upper right arm. The fatal wound to Brown's head indicates that he was leaning or falling forward, and the path of the sixth shot, which hit Brown's forearm and traveled up the back of his arm to his inner arm, means that Brown's palms were not facing Wilson in an act of surrender.
Was there any blood spatter?
Yes, blood splatter evidence shows that Brown was heading toward the officer during their face-off.
What about any other marks on Officer Wilson?
It appears that Darren Wilson severed an orbital blowout of his eye socket during the encounter, thus confirming Michael Brown was a credible existential threat to the officer's life.
How many times did Mr. Brown get shot?
6 times, 4 times to the arm, twice to the head. Specifically, one that went through his forehead was fatal.
Can you explain how that shot may have happened, the one that was fatal?
It probably happened in a lung position with the damage caused by the bullet indicates it happened within a few feet of the weapon used.
And we have here the autopsy showing the gunshot wounds. Would you like to slip that?
Prosecution? Cross-examination?
So the medical examiner says that he was possibly shot at a close range. But here we have a quote from your medical examiner that later she talks to a journalist and says, what happens sometimes is when you get interviewed and you have a long conversation with a journalist, they're going to take things out of context. I made it very clear that we have only partial information here. We don't have scene information, we don't have the police investigation, and we don't have all the witness statements. And you can't interpret autopsy findings in a vacuum. So basically, your medical examiner can't just say, yes, he was shot at close range because she doesn't have all the facts of the scene.
Go ahead.
Defense must acknowledge that yes, there is always variability when it comes to first-hand accounts of situations that the news editor on the scene. However, there's always going to be that doubt, that unsure factor, because it is eyewitness account. It can vary. However, in her original report that she received, she did say that it was a close-range shot. Witnesses may have, there was always a sense of variability. They may have come forth and said, oh, well, no, this right away, but once again, you're taking the word for it. There's always going to be variability. You can never be 100% sure when it comes to that.
Defense, I don't think we have any time for further evidence, so we'll take a 90-second recess, and we'll come back with the prosecution's closing argument, followed by the defense.